Enshrouded is an open world survival RPG developed by Keen Games that was released in early access on Steam January 24th, 2024, with the full release set for the end of this year on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. You're the last of a dying race and the only hope for Embervale to fight back the terrors lurking within a corrupted fog that's consuming the realm. Some of the features this game has include a voxel based world, incredible building mechanics, huge open world, exploration, classes and skill trees, co op, and a Souls like combat, even if it's a little bit dumbed down. Let's start off with the character creation, and this is going to be a short one. It's okay, pretty bare bones, I'll be honest. You select a preset, hairstyle, beard, and hair color, and that's pretty much it. There are no sliders to fine tune your looks, and that's pretty much all there is to say about it. If you're really into making your character truly yours, or even making it yourself, then you'll more likely be disappointed with this part. Next up is the overall gameplay. In typical survival fashion, you wake up with no memories and barely any clothes on you. You venture out into the world, gather sticks, stones, food, and gear. So far, Enshrouded doesn't try to reinvent the wheel here because it simply works. Everyone's played survival games before, it's usually how they start off. You're quickly introduced to basic mechanics and the base building. From there, you gather rarer resources, craft better gear, and set out for more adventures further and further away from your home. All the while following the story and uncovering who you are and what happened to Embervale. Speaking of what happened to Embervale, you quickly learn about the dangerous fog that enshrouds everything. Get it? Yeah, okay. Entering this fog will give you an enshrouded meter that slowly ticks down. Once it reaches 0, it's game over for you and you die a very sudden death. No health drain, just death. At the heart of the shroud is what's called a elixir well. This is where the fog originates from and it's guarded by a boss. Once you defeat the boss, you cleanse the area and the fog will lift. There are certain areas in the game you can't enter because the shroud is too strong. As soon as you enter the game, tells you it's a deathly shroud and you will see your timer draining extremely fast. This is all part of the game's progression. Back at your base, you have something called a flame altar. It's basically the heart of your base. There you can upgrade the size of the area you can build in, and more importantly, your flame level. The flame level will give you bonuses like increased shroud resistance, a longer shroud time, and it will allow you to enter stronger shrouds. Make more parts of the map accessible as you progress. During your adventures, you quickly learn that there are other inhabitants that are actually friendly, unlike 90% of the leftover population, and you end up taking them in, turning them into villagers of your own. They will give you more quests you take on and give you access to more advanced crafting options, which you will need to progress. It's a system like we've seen in other survival games already, like Conan Exiles, Palworld, or Bellwright. Here you basically learn about a survivor's whereabouts, set out to find them, and free them from the same kind of contraption that you first came out of at the start of the game. Usually these survivors are located in areas that are either requiring some puzzle solving, bashing enemy heads in, or a bit of both. Once freed, you can place them in your base and they will start unlocking further content for you, like I mentioned earlier. In terms of progressing through the map, you unlock these spires, giant towers spread across the map that require you to ascend through levels, first by solving small puzzles. A pretty neat little mechanic. The puzzles aren't overly complicated and usually just require you to find magical buttons. Once you reach the top, you finish that spire, and as a reward, you unlock another fast travel point. The spirals also feed into another mechanic I will touch on shortly, and that's the traversal of the map. Within the first 30 minutes of the game, you unlock a glider. The map is very vertical with mountains and valleys all over the place. Walking everywhere can be a hassle, I'll be honest about that, but the spires give you a good way to combat this by working as a super tall launch pad to glide from. Trying to get somewhere on the map, but it's going to take ages to walk. Find the closest spire and glide to your destination. Boom, problem solved. On top of the glider, you also get a grappling hook that you can use on certain parts. This combined with the glider makes the traversal of the map bearable. Try and make unlocking spires a priority, otherwise it can feel like a chore to get around the map. Side note, your own bases also work as fast travel points. So between the grappling hook, glider, spires, and your base's traversal gets easier as you progress. This game takes the importance of stamina to another level. Most games, stamina is used to sprint, maybe to fuel attacks. In Enshrouded, stamina plays a more crucial role. Farming resources, sprinting, gliding, grappling, blocking attacks, and certain special attacks consume stamina. When in your base or near a fire in the world, you gain what is called a rested bonus. The rested bonus increases your total stamina amount and makes playing the game a lot less tedious. Decorating your base will increase the duration, with the max being over 1 hour long. So you always want to make sure you have your rested buff before you leave base and venture out into the world. Lastly, for the gameplay part, I want to show you guys the skill tree. With this being an RPG, the game lets you freely choose a class. You don't select one during character creation, but rather through the skill tree. It's a decently big skill tree, and depending on what skills you choose, you'll build your own class. There's a total of 12 classes and 12 skill trees linked to them. You can fully specialize into one, like the Assassin, Healer, or Barbarian, just to give some more examples, or you can make a hybrid by combining different skill points from different classes. So for an example, you could choose to pick skills from the Ranger tree and spec into skills from the Trickster and make your own kind of class. You are only limited by the number of skill points you can earn in the game. It's a pretty decent system, not as in-depth as something like Path of Exiles, but this is also not that kind of game. It works for Enshrouded and it works well. The game does have co-op for up to 16 players, so you can do all of these things with your merry group of friends. I can't comment on how well the co-op works because my entire journey so far has been solo. However, I haven't seen any big issues about it when doing my research. The only important thing worth noting when you're playing co-op is that progression is server-based, meaning if you and your best buddy Gerald are playing together and he decides to do a quest on his own when you're not online, then you just missed out on doing that quest. So it's best to enjoy co-op with people you will always be playing together with, or at least agree not to complete quests without each other. Overall, the game is not super challenging. You have a total of 7 bosses and a variety of things like caves, ruins, catacombs, and dungeons to explore. Hollow Halls stand out here for me. This was by far the most challenging content. There's a total of 4 of these on the map, and they are essentially large dungeons filled with big groups of enemies and special loot. I tried tackling one solo, and it was quite a challenge compared to the rest of the game. However, the game does state this is intended for groups of players. But don't worry, they are doable as a solo, it just requires more preparation and decent gear. Base building. Now this is where Enshrouded really shines, and I think this is the main reason you have to play this game if you are someone who spends hours building and perfecting your own cozy home. Enshrouded uses a voxel base world. If you've never heard of voxel, don't worry, it's not a super popular system yet, but I think this is the system any base building game needs to use. Basically, the entire world is made up of these tiny little blocks called voxels, and every single one of them can be removed or added from the game. This allows you to be super precise with your build, since you can edit anything literally block by block. Imagine Minecraft, but on a much more precise scale. Voxel also allows you to manipulate the terrain. That's right, you can grab your pickaxe and dig into the ground. You can carve out caves in the side of a mountain, dig a basement under your house for that personal dungeon of yours. What you and Gerald do in that dungeon is all your business, if you're into that sort of thing. No judging here. But not only can you take away from the terrain, you can also add to it. Digging will give you resources like dirt and stone that you can then turn around and use to create elevation if you want to. Does your village feel like it's too flat? No problem. Just add your own little hills and even mountain, if you have that kind of patience. It's all doable thanks to voxel. Alright, enough about voxel and all that. Like I mentioned earlier, decorating your home in Enshrouded is actually more than just cosmetic. Adding decorations you find or unlock by playing will raise your comfort level. Higher the comfort level, the longer your rested bonus lasts for. Directly tying base building and the important stamina system together. And don't worry, if you don't care for decorating and you just want to go out there and kill stuff, decorations don't have to be placed to look nice. You can literally place them all in one big jumble in a room somewhere out of sight if you're not into all that, and you'll still get the comfort bonus. The game lets you place 4 flame altars in total, meaning you can have 4 bases spread around the map. You don't all have to be fully fleshed out bases. You can place one close to a specific resource and use it as a mining outpost, for example. Being able to use bases as fast travel points also means you might want to consider where exactly you place them on the map, as it can make getting around a little easier. Within your base, you will place other survivors you find out in the world that give you access to better crafting recipes and allow you to build more crafting stations. These work the same as they do in most survival games. Build a smelter so you can melt down metal ores into bars, which you then use to craft certain gear. Nothing groundbreaking here. All in all, I'll say Enshrouded has the best base building system I've seen in any survival game. It's easy, intuitive, and lets you create some crazy designs. Your imagination is probably going to be the limiting factor here. Hell, I saw someone rebuild Minas Tirith from Lord of the Rings with fully explorable interiors and everything. The only other game I've ever seen something like that was in Minecraft. Combat. This is a tough one for me. The game's combat is basically Souls light. You have attack chains, special attacks from the skill trees, blocking, dodging, and parrying. Timing a parry properly will increase the enemy's stun meter, which dazes them when filled and allows you to use a powerful special attack if you've unlocked it in the skill tree. My playthrough, I mainly focused on melee with two-handed weapons and or sword and shield, and I dabbled a bit in archery for pesky enemies that weren't easy to reach. Melee is good when fighting a boss or a small number of enemies, but my biggest complaint comes when you're facing off against 4 or more. A lot of enemies often don't get staggered by your hits, but they are able to stagger you. You might see where this is going. When you're fighting big groups of enemies in melee, I often had a hard time not losing a bunch of health because I could not effectively swing for more than once or twice without getting pushed around like crazy. This ended up making big fights turn into a can I kill them before they kill me, swing my sword to survive fest. It didn't make it feel like there was much skill involved. And hey, I'll be the first to admit, this could be user error. Maybe there's something I missed about the melee combat system that would make this complaint obsolete. And if that's the case, please let me know in the comments. But as of right now, that's my big gripe with the combat. Graphics and sound. I would describe the graphics as pretty. They are stylized, which lends itself well to the genre and to the game overall. You won't get stunning visuals like Ark Ascended, for example, but that's fine. The game still looks great, and especially with the verticality of the map, you get to see some impressive scenery. I enjoyed standing on top of the spires, which act as fast travel points that tower over the map and just take in the vastness and beauty of the handcrafted map. Sound design is alright. There's nothing about it I would say is bad, but there's also nothing about it that's worth writing home about, if that makes sense. It's good for what it is, but I've played other games where the sound really helped you pull in and anchor you in the world. Amazon Games' New World comes to mind immediately. There are atmospheric sounds that help set the stage and give a nice ambience, like birds chirping in the forest, or wet gushing sounds when you are crawling your way through the muck of the Enshrouded areas. Now let's sum it up with your typical pros and cons. I know, I'm also not known for reinventing the wheel. Beautifully handcrafted world with lots to explore, and I always get sidetracked when going somewhere because I found another cave, another ruin, or something else that caught my interest. Also, there are no loading screens. The base building is by far the best I've seen in a survival game, giving you incredible amounts of freedom to create whatever you can imagine, and for once, tying other gameplay mechanics other than crafting to base building. Creating your own class, being able to play the game the way you want, is all doable thanks to the robust skill tree. Farming resources is not as tedious as other games. You still need to farm wood, stone, fiber, and other rare materials, but the amount needed to craft things feels scaled down compared to other games. I always felt like I could craft more with less. Visuals and sound make for a cozy and relaxing experience. The mining system gives you a level of freedom you can't find elsewhere. Dig up treasure, build bases, and create your own pathways. Co-op is easy and lets you explore the world with your friends, and Gerald, of course. The game guides you in a certain direction, but ultimately it's up to you how you want to play, letting you create your own custom experience. Combat system is decent, but I believe it could use some more tweaking, especially for melee. Enemy variety could be increased. So far there are 4 main enemy factions you'll encounter, with various subtypes in that faction. The game lets you reset loot by simply logging out and back in. This lets you choose getting things like legendary items, so some might not care about this, some might. This is why I put it in the neutral category. Balancing needs some rework. Ranged combat seems superior to melee in pretty much every way. Traversal of the map can be tedious early on due to the lack of fast travel points. With how vertical the map design is, I often found myself stuck in a valley or canyon and had to make long detours to get out. I know you can always dig your own staircase into a mountain to climb up, but let's be real, that's not a real solution to the problem. Materials need larger stack sizes. Even after just a few hours of playing, I already pumped out a bunch of storage chests because the game had so many different materials, and they tend to have small stack sizes. Constantly running out of space got bothersome pretty quick. However, I will note this gets better with further progression, but it does make the start more tedious than it would have to be. The story is rather lackluster. There are plenty of lore bits spread around the map, but overall the story is just another "the realm has fallen to an ever-consuming darkness, you are the only one that can restore the light," yada yada yada. We've seen it one too many times, I think. A more original story would have been cool. I think Enshrouded is a great survival game for early access. As a matter of fact, I think it's possibly the best early access survival game I've played. It has a lot of mechanics I like that switch things up from the usual grindy feel this genre can have, with the base building and terrain manipulation easily being second to none. It needs work, and there are some things that I mentioned I would like to see changed or reworked. But I'm confident with time and approaching full release, those will be addressed. Lastly, I would recommend you play with friends if you can, as I think that will let you enjoy the game a lot more. But I still had a great time exploring and building on my own as well. As for an overall score, I would give Enshrouded a 7 out of 10. If you stuck around this long, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what your opinion of Enshrouded is and if you're gonna give it a try in the comments. Leave a like so that the algorithm may smile upon me and to let me know you want to see more like this. Feel free to subscribe if this is the kind of content you want to see, and follow me on Twitch for some live content. Link will be in the description. Thanks for watching, and you guys take care now.